Great. So hello and welcome to Abandoned Cart, the podcast we wish we had when running our own e-commerce store. The hosts for today are Laura.
Hi.
And me, Adam, the co-founders of Pink Leopard. We're a growth acceleration agency specializing in e-commerce. Joining us today is Sam, the co-founder of Pineapple Ads, who will be talking to us about how to create thumb-stopping ads that increase return on ad spend on paid social. Sam, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me. Hello, my name's Sam. Started Pineapple Ads year and a half ago, I think, at this point. But been doing video work and creative video work for 8 or 9 years at this point. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, glad to have you. Well, before we get into it, we do kick off every episode with this one question so that the audience can get to know our guests on a bit more of a personal level. So, what's the best piece of advice you've ever received and how has it impacted your life?
Okay, cool. So there was a short anecdote. A guy I was living in New Zealand. I was living in Auckland at the time. And I was over at my cousin's house. I think we'd been out the night before or something. And I was looking for work and I was not sure what to do, but I was really into photography at the time. And I was trying to meet other people into photography and look for projects and things to work on. And I saw someone post on Reddit and it was saying, meet me today. I'll buy you lunch. I've got a project I need help with. And I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to go for it. So I went down, had lunch with this guy. This guy's called Jimmy Hunt. And he started a charity called Live More Awesome, which is all about men's health and basically trying to raise awareness about the issues, which is a big problem in New Zealand and a lot of places. And it's very sort of, you don't talk about it kind of culture. And he wanted to sort of take that on. But the advice he gave me wasn't actually really related to what he was doing there with the charity and stuff. He said to me when I was saying, oh, I should be here and I should be there. He said, mate, life's a time trial, not a race. The only person you're competing against is yourself. And I was like, I was young at the time. I was probably 21 or something like that. But I'd never really thought about anything like life like that. And I'd always kind of compared myself to other people. It helped me really realize that actually you focus on your own stuff, focus on what you're good at, take advice and listen to other people, but don't compare because I think, what they say, comparison is the thief of joy. And I think that's very true. And he's gone on to do great things. He did I helped him film and photograph the world's longest water slide. So one of the things he did is like a big PR stunt. He actually built the world's longest water slide in some field outside of Auckland, and went out there for a day, had hundreds of people come, and it really gave him a big boost and gave him a real sort of lift for the charity and really got it out there. So yeah, he's one of those people that like you meet and you can't really forget them. They're someone that will stay with you forever. I don't keep in contact with him now, unfortunately, but I could shoot him a message now and I guarantee he'd respond and be super, kind of up for chatting. He's one of those kind of people. So yeah, that's a piece of advice I kind of live by now.
Absolutely love that. Yeah, definitely need to be a bit more Jimmy Hunt. I think we can all fall into that trap sometimes, can't we, of comparing ourselves and running other people's race, but really you do have to run your own. So yeah, I'll definitely I love that. Thank you for sharing that.
No
Yeah, thanks so much. We've actually had that advice recently, haven't we, from a mentor? And I decided to everybody that I was kind of following from a business or I suppose agency competition, and I just stopped following some people who I was comparing myself to, and it was so refreshing because I didn't necessarily need to see what they were doing every single day and see how big they were growing to. So yeah, definitely had that advice kind of myself.
It applies everywhere as well, especially in the creative industry. There are people out there who will always be more creative than me, always come up with a better idea than me. But then some days I'll come up with a good idea, and some days I'll be the one who maybe they're envious of, and that's just how it goes. It's always a sort of give and take situation. But
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I tend to look at what other people are doing from a sense of, oh, that's a good idea. Oh, I could take that. But I no longer let myself be like, oh no, they're so much better than me, and oh, this guy in Portugal who's a videographer, he's done this amazing thing. I was like, he's not my competition. Why should I be jealous of him? I should be happy for him. He's come up with this cool idea, or she, and done it. It's great, and see it more of a positive thing rather than a negative.
Yeah, for sure.
There's only one Sam Stratton.
Exactly.
Okay.
That's a very good thing, I think.
Okay, amazing. Well, really excited to dig into the kind of the juicy details of what you do, and also creating this thumb-stopping creative, which is hot on everyone's agenda at the moment, especially a lot of e-commerce businesses running Facebook ads, TikTok ads. So I'd love to just quickly, if you wouldn't mind, I know you briefly mentioned about pineapple ads before, but just give us a quick kind of overview of what it is that you do and what your business specializes in.
Sure. So yeah, it started as a direct response to a problem I'd noticed on the B2B side, which I was working in before, doing a lot more sort of corporate video work. Essentially, my main frustration with brands getting creative made is that they don't see creative all the time as big a part as it is. And also, they don't think about the goal and how the creative ties into that goal, whether it's driving traffic, whether it's a big pitch that you need video to support, or whatever it is, that the metrics that you want out at the end are directly tied to not only the capability of the people running that campaign, but also the creative itself. People watch things they want to watch. They don't watch things that are boring and selling at them facts. So ultimately, I wanted to start something that looked at the creative as a part of the whole process, not just a thing that needs to get made to put on the platform. A lot more thought behind it, but also not just the thought behind making it, but also learning what works. A kind of combined creative and analytical approach, if you like, rather than just going, oh, that ad did really well, that's good. Kind of going, yeah, but why did it do really well? What's the foundational reason for it doing well? And we already A/B test everything. So what's the difference between A/B testing in terms of individual variables within that creative? It's complicated, and it's not a precise science, and I will never claim that it is. But you can give yourself an advantage definitely by if something does work, do it again, but change the overall look of it. So you're still using the same logic, but you're just applying a new look to the thing so that you can beat ad fatigue and things like that. So that's kind of where pineapple ads started, and the kind of raison d'etre, if you will, of why we get up every day. And I want to help people make ads that perform better from a creative standpoint, and also not just make ads that people say, oh, make an ad like this, but actually think really hard about what you're trying to say, how you're trying to say it, and how you can catch someone's attention really quickly. And so I think the thing that I like to think that separates us from a lot of other sort of creative outfits, especially in the social space, is they're quite reactive, and I'd like to be quite proactive. So hopefully I managed to do that. Seems to be working with the clients I'm working with at the moment. But yeah, it's challenging sometimes to get all the access to the data that you need. But it's all part of the fun.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that you said about the creative and analytical aspect, because that's something that we speak a lot about, is that you obviously have to have the creative element and understanding really what works, and making sure that it's right from a brand perspective. But the analytics, because obviously that's our area in performance marketing, is so vital. But I think you can go so heavily one way or so heavily the other. So I love that approach. So just on that, I suppose, just for kind of people listening and out of my intrigue, like where do you even start with the process? So if a brand comes to you and they want you to, say, generate them, I don't know, like 10 to 20 creatives for their meta ads to improve performance, like where do you start, and what is your process for working with them and for coming up with high performing creative?
Sure. No, it's a good question. Essentially, it varies very, very heavily from client to client. And the main factor is their experience with running ads, essentially. Sometimes people have limited budgets, limited experience running ads. Maybe they have, people like yourselves running the campaign for them, or maybe they don't and they do it internally. I'd love to work with clients like that who run it themselves internally. Unfortunately for me, my experience, it doesn't lead to great results, because for me to do what I need to do with the analytics and understanding what's performing and what's not, I really need someone who really knows how to run campaigns at a granular level to be able to sort of make that work. So I can prove my value and my worth to the process as well. Because if I can't do that, they might assume that it's my fault that it's not working. And sometimes I feel like, that's a dangerous situation to put myself in. So I always check, sort of, have you got a lot of experience running ads? Who's the agency you're using, if you're using an agency? And I try and ascertain quite quickly whether or not I can get access to that information, because without it, I can't really offer the service I want to offer. So that's the first kind of question. And if they have run ads, so that's kind of the split at the top. Once I find that out, it can go one or two ways. So if they have run ads before, what I tend to do is ask for data about the best thing they've ever run and the worst performing thing they've ever run, to try and get a sense of, okay, what's worked really well in the past, and just get as much data as I can from them, so I can start to put together a picture of, like, okay, with that data, where's my starting point? What am I going to push as a kind of good idea to start with, based on their goals, of course. So we'll talk about what are your objectives here. So, you can run campaigns for all kinds of different objectives. Some people might just want to get some brand awareness. Maybe it's a top line ad that runs for a couple of months to just build that awareness, and the messaging is more overarching rather than product specific. Or maybe, they know exactly what they want to do. They've got a new product launching in 2 months and they want to get ready to launch that. Fine. Okay. So, but they're very different objectives, and the creative, therefore, will be kind of very different. So that's kind of it. And I also asked people to pitch their product or service to me in a couple of sentences, because I think if they can do that, that's always a really good sign to me that they understand how succinct everything needs to be. And I'll talk about this maybe a bit later. We'll get on to sort of different aspects of creative, but you have no time. You have no time, no time to get someone's attention, and people are super distracted all the time. And if you are not catching them in that first 2 seconds, it's basically go round for the next time and hope that next time they spend a bit longer, but chances are they won't. So yeah, it's really important that they can be succinct about their brand for me, because if they can't, then I don't really know where to start from. Mm-hmm. Or at least it identifies that that's something that needs to be kind of looked at and worked on. And kind of their experience with stills and video and getting creative made. So we shoot video and we shoot stills, as well as, building the ads out using motion graphics and editing. So whether or not they need that service is important as well, because quite often, you'll get brands that have had stuff made and it's not very good, the creative, the photography or the video. And so you're already starting on the back foot, or it's been shot for a non-specific purpose, and then you have to fine tune it and make it look like it was shot for this specific purpose. Always bespoke created content for that specific purpose is going to be better, because it gives you that extra split second of like instant recognition of what you're trying to talk about. If you've got footage of the thing, you can lead with it or whatever it is. Again, brand guidelines, quite important that brands understand where the lines are. And so that enables a framework for me to actually create better stuff. Because, if I don't know what's allowed and what's not allowed, that can be quite difficult process, because I'll end up going back and forth with them. There's these invisible barriers that I don't know about that can cost me some time and some frustration. But again, happy to work on that. And we do offer kind of brand guidelines packages, so we can sort of figure out what that is for them and help them work that out. And essentially, yeah, we can do a lot with not a lot. So I've had brands come to me and they've only got stills. And I've taken those stills and I've added a bit of motion to the stills. I've added text and animated text and all these kind of things to get the messaging across. And they look really nice. They're simple, clean, clear, and the messaging is up front. And the photography was good, which helped. But even if it's not that good, there's still quite a lot of stuff you can do to kind of elevate it. So I would say that those are the kind of the key things I try and ascertain quite quickly when talking to a client. That's pretty much it. Those are my sort of steps.
Yeah, that's cool. It sounds very very in depth. I think a lot of agencies or brands that we've worked with would use the likes of and I'm definitely not slagging them off here at all.
I know what you're about to say.
I know you're about to as well.
What, like No Limit Creative and things like that?
Actually, I didn't.
Oh, okay. No, and it's
no, it's fine.
And I think it serves a purpose. But using things like No Limit Creative or sort of, just services that put together some sort of pretty videos or just like hash together, a load of images and videos, but there's no kind of, and then if we're not working with them on creative, or we're not working with you, for example, to come up with the creative, but the client's providing it to us, you can really tell that it's just, there's no thought, there's no storyboarding, there's no like messaging behind it. And so I think creative is still a world where people just think, we'll just make it look pretty and that works. But everything that you're saying is really interesting in that you need to really get deep. You need to understand the brand, you need to understand the message, you need to understand what level of the funnel you're trying to use that creative for. So much more goes into it than let's just make this video move.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what you're saying is bang on, really. It's like, using a rocket launcher to go hunting, it's madness. Like, you wouldn't ever do it. It's kind of like just throwing loads of creative at the problem. It's yes, okay, cheap, but you're not thinking about, your wins won't be true wins. They won't be wins that will grow your business sustainably. They'll be you won't know where the wins came from. You won't understand why they were wins. You won't know all of those kind of things. And also, to be honest, those places, sure, they serve a purpose and they exist. We're not going to, get rid of them. They're fine. It's just that they don't, their model is built on volume, not on precision, and not on really understanding and, a bespoke kind of approach. And people always think, oh, but that's going to be more expensive then, surely. And yes, it is going to be a little bit more expensive. Absolutely. But I think the main thing here is that a lot of people see the creative element particularly, or marketing in general, as a cost. And it's such a weird way to look at it to me. It's like, if I have £1 and I can spend that £1 and turn it into £2, it's an investment, not a cost. And that is exactly what I've tried to educate people on. And, you're always coming at it from an educational standpoint with people who don't necessarily view it like that. And that can be a bit of an uphill battle. But, if you do get there, they thank you and they're happier for it. And it's something that I don't think will ever change, because it's more of a psychological thing than it is a practical understanding thing. They understand the principle of put money in, get more money out if you do it right, but not the reasons why. So that's what I always try and sort of espouse to the clients I'm talking to, is this idea of, think of it like an investment.
Yeah, definitely. Or it's got to be like an immediate return, not like a long.
Yeah, exactly. That's actually another good point to the start of this process. Is like, I think these things can take time, and I think that would be one thing I'd add to what I would talk to clients about, is make them aware that, and I'm sure a lot of them do know, and in fact they do when I've spoken to them, that it's not instant wins overnight. It's the same with learning what's working creatively and what isn't. If a brand's never done any kind of ad campaigns before, you don't want to just start throwing lots of things. You don't want to go, this is the way that it's going to work. This is definitely going to work. You want to try some stuff out to see what's working and what isn't, to get your data.
Yeah, definitely. Is there a like a tried and tested secret formula that you can kind of give the listeners in terms of, I know it's going to be very different if it's, say, a brand video, or but something that you see repeatedly works on Facebook ads, because you obviously see everybody sort of say this 4-step formula where it's a hook, and then you give the problem, and then you give how your product fixes that solution, and then it's a testimonial, and that's like the perfect winning combination. Do you have anything that, maybe not for every single scenario, but that you can give as like a tip of this does work, and it's something that we always kind of try?
It depends really on the product and the service, and the type of content, like you say. Ultimately, no, there isn't a magic silver bullet, in my opinion. I wish there was. That would be nice, but I probably wouldn't exist as a service if there was.
Love a silver bullet.
I think there are definitely ways to improve, obviously, what people are doing, and the kind of formulaic approach. I think, you go start, if you're just starting out, just A/B testing really different creative is very important up front. You don't have enough data, say, to make informed decisions about what you should be showing and how. So that's something that I think is absolutely important. That's a secret formula. But in terms of like the contents of the actual content, like what goes into the creative, I would say clear, large, but pretty messaging. If you're talking about more of a kind of stylized approach, not a more organic influencer style video, definitely if you're trying to, say, I don't know, sell a course or something like that, it needs to be super clear upfront what that actually is, because if there's any ambiguity about that, people just they're not interested. I would also say, definitely, if you are going to shoot content for, I don't know, say FMCG drink, something that moves quickly and you need to sell lots of volume of it, it's like try the polished route, and try the kind of lo-fi kind of route, and the quick kind of edits, and shoot stuff on a phone. It sounds crazy. I shoot things properly with a camera for a living, and I would encourage still that people try and shoot things on a phone, and just keep it snappy. Honestly, that is the best advice I could give, or was given, is when you're editing something. I can't remember who it was. I saw this video. He's kind of a knick-knack collector on YouTube. He's a really interesting guy, but he's got this crazy kind of studio setup, and he always makes these really cool little short videos on Instagram whereby he finds this object, and it's not a product or anything like that. He's got this like strange Japanese puzzle, let's say, and he will have his phone. He sort of did a behind the scenes on how he made it. He said, I've got my phone, I've got Adobe Rush, which is like a phone-based Adobe editing thing. He's like, I shoot the thing, I get people interested in it, I talk a little bit about it, I show how it works, and I edit it all on my phone, and I post it straight like that. And the posting straight from his phone thing, that's one thing that you can do. I personally find that way of creating very hard, and it doesn't, to me, work from a brand perspective. But the thing that I think is important, the takeaway there, is just how quickly he can engage you by following the same set of steps. He does kind of just go, here's the thing, so you can see it, and then he gives you a little insight into it. He's talking over the top, just kind of, but he does it, the videos are like 15 seconds max, and they are super, and he's like, I get crazy engagement on those, so I think obviously not every product or service is as interesting as a kind of cool little puzzle or something like that, but it's that mentality of like breaking it down, like showing it up front, giving the information up front, not teasing people with it, because you're there to sell something at the end of the day, and like you need to get the information across to them quickly. And so I liked his idea of just like, don't mess around, quick cuts, showing the stuff, basically.
Do you know
that's kind of it?
Do you know his name for the listeners?
I can look it up. I can't remember it off the top of my head. Ask me the next question.
Sorry, Sam, on the spot there.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah, so yeah, great advice. Keep it snappy. I suppose it does depend on what your product is as well, doesn't it? Very much. Like if it is a real if it is a product, I suppose that is quite self-explanatory or short, snappy how-to videos work well, because as I follow a lot of different beauty brands and fashion brands, and sort of short, snappy videos or showing them using the product is they always capture my attention. But then obviously you have brands that might be I don't know, maybe something a bit more medical, say, or something that needs a bit more explanation as to why that works or what problem it solves. If it's a well, we used to work with a hair it was like a powder for hair for like balding men essentially, but you kind of would have to sort of show the problem solution. Testimonials worked really well with that because you couldn't just like shake it on your hair and show. Well, you could, but also there was kind of a little bit more needed than just fashion, where they have those videos where the changing dresses like really quickly.
Yeah, and that brings up an interesting point. It's like, I found this a lot in B2B work I was doing. Businesses would always say, but what we do, like, it's not creative. So how are you going to make us look good or interesting? And I was like, well, that's my job. That's what I do. Like, I can make, things that ordinarily would be a bit plain much more interesting. And I think you've hit the nail on the head with that product. Is you can't really get nice slow-mo B-roll of someone putting this powder on their hair, so you got to think about outside the box a little bit. And you're right, testimonials in that instance would be definitely the way to go, because it really does kind of, especially with medical stuff, it makes a big difference, because people are a bit scared or apprehensive about trying a new product like that. Or you get the other flip side of the coin where people will try absolutely anything.
Yeah, so, that's very true.
I think that definitely applies to the boldness situations.
Yeah.
There's some situations where people like, give me the product, I will try
it. yeah, very true. Okay, amazing. Well, I appreciate that we're coming towards the end now, but just one more question that I did want to ask was just, when you work with the brand or say an agency, like how do you sort of work with them to test and measure what is working and what isn't, that feeds back to you, so that is it purely sort of obviously, again, as a performance agency, we're so revenue driven and return on ad spend driven, or do you have other metrics that kind of you like to understand as to whether that has been successful or not?
Yeah, definitely. So I keep a kind of list for every client about what the variable list doesn't really change. The variable list I've sort of developed over time, and it'd be anything from, I categorize them. So like big impact, medium impact, low impact, for instance. And a big impact example of that would be the pace. So something that's really quick and snappy, or something slower and a bit more kind of draws you in, which can work for certain things. It really does. That's quite sort of product dependent. Or really polished or more lo-fi. That's another big impact kind of creative variable, I would say. So essentially, things like watch time and interactions are actually quite useful. Definitely click-through rate. And I think this is another thing that's quite important that we didn't touch on, is the idea that where they click through to is as important almost as the ad. I know you guys will be telling your clients that, like, if you land on a poorly optimized landing page or something like that, it's kind of undoes a lot of the hard work. So that's another factor to account for. But yeah, those two, like watch time. So you can see, like, okay, so average percentage watch through as well. I've been working with a client who creates digital products, and some of the watch time is like 70-80% of a 40-second or 30-second ad, which is pretty good. And so that was quite interesting to me, as like, okay. But then the other test that I did on that same campaign had a similar watch time, but much less kind of click-through rate. So, trying to understand what that then means. for the next set of creative. And I will, put those kind of decisions that I made in the creative process into the spreadsheet, look at, okay, we did this, 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 and this, or usually 1 or 2 variables is max I would test. But once you've established one big variable that does work, you kind of lock it in and then you test against that. So you can sort of, depends on the budget and how much creative they want to make. But I mean, if the sky's the limit on the budget, you can go crazy and start split testing out into a big tree, which is great, but it does get more complicated.
Yeah, thanks. That's really interesting, because I think, things like watch time, that's really important for the brand. But again, and I am a performance marketer, so don't get me wrong, I do love return on ad spend, but you've got to take into consideration other things like what those creatives are doing for the brand. Is it a more brand sort of heavy video, and that's, getting views, and a longer view time is the important metric there, as long as you're sort of measuring what impact that has down the line. Versus, I think with performance marketing, people are a little bit too, that's got to make a sale like right now, otherwise it's canned and it doesn't work. So you don't look at the overall impact of the brand and what the creatives are sort of having. So
absolutely, and the stronger the foundation for the brand, the better that the ads in the future will land. If you've got good presence of mind, if people have seen what you've put out there before and they're kind of a little bit interested. But this is why the word funnel is thrown around so much. It's not a trap. It's not a bear trap. Someone puts their foot in it, they're instantly caught. It's a funnel. They go down the funnel, and it sounds bad analogy, like trap people, but ultimately, it's a funnel, and people go down the funnel, and if they're interested, they will go down that funnel. So it's more about a long-term approach, and that's where that sort of maybe always on sort of top line piece of creative ties into it all. That's kind of the foundation. So it should be bottom line, I suppose, shouldn't it?
Yeah, that makes sense though. And it is a trap, really. That's our job.
Yeah, it's not evil. It's not evil at the end of the day. It's just people want to buy certain things and they need to know about your product. You're trying to sell it, so that's how it goes.
Yeah, exactly.
Love it. Well, thank you so much for all of that insight, Sam. It was really, really, really insightful, really helpful. Is there anything that we didn't ask you that you think the audience would like to hear and be good to know?
The idea, we touched on it a little bit, but one thing that's quite difficult to get right, I think, and something that I've come up against quite a lot is the importance of that sort of cohesion and brand cohesion from a creative standpoint. From my point of view, makes my job easier, but from a recognition point of view, when they are running campaigns and running ads and getting creative made, it is really important that there's a cohesive look and feel to things, because you undo a lot of good work if you make something that doesn't have some kind of unique marker, whether it's colors, typefaces, something that relates the brand to the content, so that someone within an instant can be like, I know, like for instance, I'm getting this ad right now and my ads are crazy all over the place because I do a lot of liking of ads and researching, and then I'll watch them again and again, trying to figure out what they've done, but to learn. And so they think I love it, and so I get spammed with it more and more. But essentially, I bought a product recently from Instagram. So I am completely the same as everyone else. I'm not immune to this stuff at all. And essentially, it was it was called mold magic. So you just put it on tile grouting and leave it for a couple of hours and then wipe it away. And it's not complicated what it is, but the marketing was good. And I keep getting it again and again, even though I've bought it. So that's a weird thing. I never really know exactly why that happens. But
I think you've
essentially,
got a really moldy house, these people.
Well, I mean, it was just a little bit in the bathroom, and I thought, I'll get rid of it. And I didn't have any particular way to do that. So I thought, I'll just try this out. It wasn't very expensive. It was incredibly good. It worked really, really well. But the ads that I'm seeing, like instantaneously, I know, like subconsciously within 0.3 of a second, I know it's an ad by them, because their product is straight away in there and it's the same style, the same music. Like, it's that kind of approach that I think is super crucial.
Yeah.
Anyway.
No, thank you for that. Yeah, totally agree. And it's something that we talk to our clients a lot about, getting that brand piece right, getting that consistency right, because it's so, so important. And as you said before, making sure that you're investing in that early on will pay, dividends further down the line rather than being ad hoc and all over the place. Getting that, important to get that piece right.
Yeah. And plan your entire year of content if you can. That definitely helps too.
Love it. Okay, well, thank you so much for all of that, Sam, and thank you very much for joining us. Thank you, everybody, for listening, and I hope you enjoyed the show as well. Sam, if people want to find out more about Pineapple Ads, where can they find you?
Cool. So you can find us at www.pineappleads.co.uk. That's the best way to get in contact with us. We're on Instagram as well as Pineapple Ads _ after the Pineapple Ads. Someone else beat me to it. So yeah, thank you very much for having me on. It's been great. Nice talking to you.
Excellent. Cool. Well, if you do like the show, please subscribe and follow us. There will be more episodes coming out soon. Thank you very much.